Hi, I'm Trish Fay in San Jose, California.
Hi, Trish. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Parisa. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. We're just going to talk a little bit about your journey and what brought you to Qigong, how you found us, and the incredible, inspiring story and journey that you've been on. So,
Okay, cool.
yeah. Do you want to start by telling us how did you find Shelton Qigong and in general?
Sure. I honestly like to say that I honestly believe that it was just a divine guidance for me. I was on Facebook one day and a friend had posted about her birthday and all the things she was going to do. And one of the things she was going to do was a Qigong class. And I went, what the heck is Qigong? And so I Googled it and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then it just totally went off my radar. And at this time is when I was very sick. I had a lot of things going on within my body, physically, emotionally, psychologically. And it was a really, really difficult time for me. And then Qigong came back on my radar, and I don't remember how. And honestly, I don't remember how I found you guys. I think I must have Googled Qigong classes in San Jose, but somehow I found you guys. I do remember that a couple days later, I went back to find it again and I couldn't find it again. But I had already emailed you and you were holding a 6-week course, and it was the middle of the course. And so I had emailed you, is it, can I still join? And you said, absolutely, of course. And that's how I found you guys. I'm not really sure, but I really do believe that it was just a divine, this is where you need to go now, child. This is where you need to go now. So
Go with the flow. Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
It was almost 3 years ago. It'll be 3
Wow.
years in either March or April at the Center for Spiritual Living
Yes.
is where the class was. Yeah.
Wow. And you weren't feeling good at that time, I remember.
Right. I was really sick. I had been sick at that point for a couple of years. I had things that were off the charts. I had just a quick laundry list. I had severe food insensitivities and gut issues. I had multiple chemical sensitivities, nervous system issues, anxiety was off the charts, serious depression, and a whole other laundry list of symptoms that Western medicine was just telling me I was crazy. It's all in your head. They wanted to give me prescriptions, and I refused to take anything pharmaceutical because of my nervous system issues. So it was a really hard time. It was a really difficult time. I was fragile. I was brittle. I was pretty much an anxious mess. Is what I was.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. So when you first thought about joining the class, what was your biggest hesitation at the time? Do you remember?
There were a few for me. Number one was that I wouldn't be able to do it physically or emotionally, be able to do it because I was just so weak and just scared. I just lived in fear all the time. And then there was also a fear that this wasn't going to be for me, and that I was going to be led down the wrong path again, and that I was going to be, ridiculed again because I couldn't do what they were telling me to do, type of a thing. Those were the biggest ones, but I went anyway because I was just committed to getting well, and I was fighting tooth and nail to do that. So
wow, that's so amazing that you were able to face those fears and move forward despite that feeling, because I'm sure that there's a lot of people that can relate to that, and how often fear kind of blocks our ability to move forward and to actually step into certain things, modalities, or what have you, that could actually really help us.
Absolutely. It's trusting that tiny little voice, that little touch on your shoulder. It's trusting that it's leading you to where you need to be. And that's not always easy to do, especially when you have a lot of noise going on around you and inside you. It's not always easy to do. Yes. But I'm really glad I listened.
I'm so glad you answered that call.
Yeah.
What are some of like the transformations that you have experienced since you first joined the classes?
Wow, it's been incredible. And I know you know that because you've watched me for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
I would say the first transformation for me was the anxiety. The anxiety that I was experiencing was off the charts. I mean, it was not uncommon for me to have 3 or 4 panic attacks a day. Everything made me seriously anxious, and I was dealing with depression. And at one point, I wasn't at this time, but before that, I had even been suicidal because I was sick.
Mhm.
Nobody believed me, nobody could help me, and I didn't know what was going on within me. So when I started the classes, that first class, I will never forget that first class. It's like I think I had to sit down through some of it because I was just weak. And things were happening within my body. I could feel things happening and I didn't know what it was. And it terrified me. And I wanted to cry. And I cried the whole way home, and kept saying, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know what's happening to me. But I look back on that and I realized some of that was simply hope. It's like, in that setting, Chris gave a presentation for like 20 minutes. And in that time, he talked about different illnesses that Qigong had been able to help and that he'd been able to help in his practice. And, RA and lupus and nervous system issues and gut issues. And I remember thinking, maybe this can help me. And it terrified me. And I cried the whole way home. But I went back the next week because I just knew there was something there for me. I thought there's something here that can help me. So I went back. And when I started practicing on my own, the first thing I noticed was my anxiety calmed. And it wasn't an overnight thing, but it happened fairly quickly when I started letting go in my daily practice instead of clenching and saying, I don't remember this move and I don't know how to do it. And, that kind of a thing. And so once the anxiety calmed, then I was more able to figure out what exactly was happening within me. If what hurt, why did my nervous system flare up? Where did this anxiety attack come from? And I could look back, what did I eat? Did I have a new supplement? What's going on out here? That kind of, was I exposed to some chemicals? And once the anxiety calmed, I was more easily able to figure out what was happening and adjust my body and adjust what I was doing to help my body. And that's when transformation, my healing really started, honestly. It was very slow going at the time. And then the third thing that I like to share about this, and it's a divine thing, is that for me, Qigong was the missing link in my healing. By this time, I had a good functional medicine doctor who saw me, who believed me, and knew how to help me. I had a good therapist who was helping me with the anxiety and the depression, as well as the traumas from my illness and traumas in my past. Right. And then I've always had a pretty strong spiritual base, but my spiritual base and my faith was really deep, but yet my healing was really, really slow. And when I started practicing Qigong every day, it's like the cord that bound everything together. And that's when true transformation really started. And I started to really see how the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual, they began to work together in my healing process. And that's when I started to get stronger. And that's when I started to heal. It's simply, some people call it magical, and I call it a divine gift, because I really believe that's when I started to really get well.
Oh my gosh, way to turn that around and transform the tragedy into a triumph. It's just so amazing. And
yeah, it's pretty crazy for me. It's like something might come up in therapy and I can help deal with it with the Qigong, or something will rise in Qigong and I can pray on that, or I can deal with that in therapy, or physical things happen and I can talk to my doctor and Qigong helps with that. It's just an incredible tool. It's one of the major tools in my toolbox for my healing. I don't believe there's any one thing for everybody.
Right.
But man, this is something pretty powerful.
And I like that you use the word tool, because that's literally, it's like a tool or a technology that's been time tested, right? It's been around for so long. So it's like, it seems now in retrospect, right? When you look back, you're like, oh, why didn't I start that sooner? But it just like the path had to open and the timing had to be right. And the energy field had to be ready to receive that type of tool, that technology. Like you literally had that timing had to line up for you.
Exactly. It was time. And that's what that quiet little divine, now let's go over here and try this, because it was time. It was time to move forward. And that was the tool to move me forward.
Wow. That's so cool. And then at what point when did you decide you wanted to teach? Because you are a teacher and you have your business, Sunshine Qigong.
Yes, Sunflower Qigong.
Oh, sunflower. What did I say? Sunflower Qigong. Okay.
It is sunshiny though.
You're just like a ray of sunshine. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I had been practicing for maybe 6 months or so when the teacher training level 1 came up, and I had no intention of teaching. I just knew that this was helping me and I wanted to learn more and go deeper with it. And then that's when the pandemic hit, right?
Yes.
And so we went through that whole thing, and it was through level 2, I would say even more than halfway through level 2. So months and months in, before I got this little tap on the shoulder that said, you know what, you have something to offer people, because I know I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that has dealt with anxiety off the charts. I'm not the only one that has been dismissed by Western medicine and made you feel like it's all your fault. I'm not the only one that has symptoms that nobody can explain, and if this is Qigong has helped me, I know it can help other people. And so that's what I wanted to do. And so I did.
Yes! Well, we're so glad that you did that. And then how did you find the transition from, because that's a big question a lot of people have, is like, I'm still looking for like in-person group classes, but the whole situation. So transitioning from the regular weekly classes into what eventually became the Qi Club, how did you find that transition, and what benefits or non-benefits have you noticed as a result?
I get 2 benefits from the Qi Club. The first is something that you just touched on, and it's the community. I really miss being able to practice in a room with people, because there's this amazing energy exchange and things happen that you could not, you would never imagine things that could happen, right? But they do, and it's pretty incredible. But I find even online, there is that energy exchange. There's something magical to that when a group of people, wherever they are practicing and doing the same thing. It reminds me of, they say that, the power of prayer, and that if multiple people are praying wherever they are in the world at the same time, that there's visible energy that flows from that. So that's one of the things. And the other is something that you guys still remind me of after all this time of the Qi Club, is that for me, my personal practice can be pretty serious, right? It's like, okay, I know this shit's going, I know this stuff is going on, and I want to get rid of it, or what is this going on? Let's figure this out, right? And when I log into class, I am reminded that it's okay to be lighthearted in your practice, right? It doesn't have to always be, okay, I'm going to do my Qigong now and I'm super serious about it, right? And there's a whole different level of energy with that. And so it brings much needed joy and lightheartedness to me when I forget that. So thank you. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. Yeah. Well, that was kind of the reason why we had structured the classes in that way, because you're right. It was like everything was so serious. And that's true, is that when you're feeling ill or you're not feeling good, then we go in problem solving mode, and it is serious, and we want to get to the root of what's going on. We want to fix it and clear it. And at the same time, it's like simply by smiling or like, you know, making people laugh, then that kind of brings the levity, so that then you can feel more open to receiving the energy balance that comes about from the practice.
Right. And I have found that it doesn't prevent the energy from coming in and doing its work within, which,
Right.
you know, it's like, well, no, we're going to heal now. We have to be serious and we're going to heal now. You know,
Exactly.
it's not necessary, you know? And so it's, yeah, like I said, thank you for that. You know, I needed that reminder sometimes. So
Well, we like to have fun in the Chi Club, but we also take the practice very seriously. So,
and this I know to be true. Yes.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time, and we'll drop your website in the description below. So for anyone who does want to reach out for Trish, you're still doing those classes Thursdays?
Yes, Thursdays at 4 at Hakone Gardens in Saratoga.
And it's a beautiful environment. And that is where, if you are looking for an in-person class and you're in the South Bay area, that please look up Trish, because those classes are incredible.
Thank you, Parisa.
Thank you so much, Trish.